This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
Indiana's Stage 5 reopening is now on hold. Good evening. I'm Amanda Starrentino.
And I'm Mark Mullins. With the rise in cases of COVID-19 in Indiana, Governor Holcomb says the state will stay at stage 4.5 for at least 2 more weeks. That announcement came today in the governor's weekly news conference. Holcomb's decision means Indiana restaurants will continue to be allowed 75% capacity in their dining rooms, while bars, nightclubs, bowling alleys, museums, and movie theaters can be open at half capacity. The streets that were closed by the city of Indianapolis to help promote outdoor dining during the pandemic will remain shut down a little longer. This morning, the Department of Public Works announced the closure of Mass Ave, Georgia Street, and Broad Ripple Avenue will be extended through Labor Day weekend. The closure was scheduled to end this coming weekend, but the city says it has gotten positive feedback from restaurants and merchants about the closures. The world's largest retailer is joining the list of companies requiring all customers, to wear masks. Walmart's new mask mandate goes into effect next Monday, July 20th. The company says this will allow plenty of time for customers to be ready and allow for employees to be trained on how to enforce the policy. Best Buy and Starbucks stores began requiring face coverings for customers today.
Another school district says it will keep students out of the classroom for now in response to the ongoing pandemic. The school board in Anderson voted unanimously to open schools with virtual classes only. Anderson initially was going to offer both in-person and online classes when its school year begins August 5th. Now students will be taught entirely at home until at least September 9th. The board says that's when it will reassess the risk of sending students and teachers back inside school buildings. The vote came after Washington Township schools in Marion County decided to offer only virtual classes for the foreseeable future. And for those coming in contact with COVID-19 patients, possibly before people are even diagnosed, safety precautions are key. Our Alyssa Donovan found out what the Carmel Fire Department is doing to be prepared when responding to calls.
As we deal with daily changes with COVID-19, first responders with Carmel Fire Department are doing everything they can to keep themselves and you safe. This is the new normal for firefighter and EMT Matt DeRiker. Putting on protective pants, a protective jacket, an N95 mask, and glasses before every run. After they return to the station, they spray down themselves and their equipment with disinfectant. These are some of the many steps the Carmel Fire Department is taking to keep their crews and you safe. The department stocked up on PPE like N95 masks, gowns, paper masks, disinfectant, and hand sanitizer. They're also doing a temperature check anytime someone enters the building. And each firefighter is getting tested weekly for COVID. A test that is not only for their safety, but for those they're serving in the community.
We're not just going on COVID patients, we're not just going on fires, we're going into the homes of the people that are very sickest. So if we can find out early and often that somebody is possibly positive and then keep them out of that equation until they're safe to go into it, it's going to help keep the citizens safer.
Fire officials are keeping an eye on trends with the virus to determine if any changes will need to be made to the protocols. But for now, this is the new normal for crews working in Carmel. I'm Alyssa Donovan, RTV6.
All is quiet in central Indiana, certainly. No storms visible on the weather now. Camera looking to the west as some sun is breaking through. But I think the storms that we'll inherit in the next hour or so will lose strength as they come into the Hoosier State. But you can't slam on the brakes immediately. I do think there will be especially a damaging wind threat in the western portion of the state. As I mentioned, quiet now. A strong to severe storm will brush northwest portions of Benton County. Otherwise, we'll wait on this line of storms. There's a tornado watch back west of Effingham and Champaign. As these storms move east, they'll move into a less favorable environment to maintain their strength. We don't have as much as what we call instability. The wind fields are a little bit weaker and not quite as much humidity, but you can see tons of lightning, heavy rainfall, and occasional damaging wind gusts. This will start to push along the Wabash River about 8 o'clock tonight. maybe 8 to 9, 8:30, somewhere in that ballpark. They're moving at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. I'll point out our Storm Shield app, it is free. It's crucial in severe weather events because it acts like a weather radio for your phone. You'll get notifications right to your phone when a warning is issued for your area. We'll talk about what happens after the storms and when the heat soars coming up.
Indianapolis is on track to set a record this year in homicides and other violent crimes, and that's prompting a call to action from community leaders. They're ready to walk the talk, and they want you to join them. Today, several groups gathered in Hallville on the west side to announce marches for peace in so-called hot spots across the city. The first march is tomorrow night in Hallville. Leaders say it's an open invitation for anyone who cares about turning the tide of violence.
Here we are, once again, talking about violence in our community. It seems to be a never-ending story. You know, I mean, it's a cycle. Violence, protest, quiet, violence, protest. Something has to be done, and as I think about it, I think it has to be a heart change. People have to have the heart for each other. They have to value their lives and other lives.
More peace marches are planned for the rest of the month into August. They'll be at 34th and Keystone on July 24th, 29th and MLK on July 31st, and 38th and Post on August 8th. Organizers say they will announce more peace marches later. They hope to continue the marches through at least the end of October.
We are at the very beginning stages of planning significantly more in-person voting sites for Election Day.
Those plans could mean voters in Marion County won't face long lines in November like the ones seen here during the primary election. And with 16 weeks until the general election, there's a lot you need to know. Our Cornelius Hawker reached out to Marion County election officials to find out what is being done to make sure everyone can exercise their right to vote.
We're doing everything that we can to help prevent those long lines.
Russell Hollis, Deputy Director with the Marion County Clerk's Office, tells me making the voting experience better for the general election is a top priority.
Ideally, we'll have voting for the full 28-day period, which is the normal early voting period.
Along with early voting, Hollis also wants people to know about the option to vote by mail.
We encourage them to use the state's online portal to vote by mail. It's a more efficient process for voters, and it does eliminate some of the steps for error that a voter can make when applying on a paper application.
As more people consider voting by mail to cut down on the risk of contracting coronavirus, Hollis encourages you to make sure you read all the instructions that come with absentee ballots. Marion County didn't count 1,806 of the ballots they received for the primary election.
Some of the ballots that were rejected because they were lacking the voter's signature. So there is a signature space in yellow on the back of the return envelope, and the election board must match the voter's signature on the application with the signature that is on the back of that return envelope.
November's election is going to have its challenges. Hollis wants voters to know election officials are doing all they can to make things easier.
You'll see less lines or smaller lines on Election Day.
Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, RTV6.
The number of in-person voting places has not been decided, but Hollis, there will be more than were offered during the primary.
The 4 police officers involved in the death of George Floyd already are facing charges, but Floyd's family say that's not enough. Coming up here on RTV6, the new legal move they just announced today.
This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
His death sparked a movement for demands for justice. Now, the family of George Floyd is filing a federal wrongful death civil rights lawsuit against the city of Minneapolis and the police officers involved in Floyd's arrest. While charges have been filed against the 4 former officers implicated in his death, attorney Benjamin Crump says the goal of the suit is to serve a larger purpose.
We seek to set a precedence to make it financially prohibitive that the police won't wrongfully kill marginalized people, especially black people in the future.
Floyd's death is forcing a reckoning around the world over racial inequality and police brutality and shining a light on other Black Americans killed by police. That includes Breonna Taylor, who was shot 8 times while Louisville police executed a no-knock warrant in a narcotics investigation. This week, protesters gathered outside the home of Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron demanding justice. 87 protesters were arrested. And President Trump is promoting Goya Foods products from the Oval Office. Trump posted this photo of himself on Instagram Wednesday, along with a selection of Goya brand foods. A similar tweet was posted from his daughter and advisor, Ivanka Trump. The messages appear to support Goya in response to boycotts and backlash against the company's CEO, who praised the president last week at a White House event. Some ethics experts believe Ivanka Trump's Twitter post Tuesday night might have violated ethics laws for federal employees.
It is perhaps the biggest fear of airline travelers in this pandemic, getting on an airplane and finding a full flight with all the middle seats booked. Now there is a question of whether that should be allowed at all. A member of Congress is set to introduce a bill to ban the sale of those seats. Joe St. George is in Washington with more tonight.
Louisiana had one of the first virus outbreaks.
Cheryl Ann Blaine just took her first flight since the pandemic began. She's careful. Her mask is always on. In fact, she stayed away from her friends for 2 weeks ahead of today's flight to Reagan National.
We quarantined ourselves for 2 weeks before these flights.
Going into today, Cheryl Ann was nervous. Videos like this of packed flights are emerging around the country. She flew American Airlines, which is not blocking off middle seats. And while she tells us her flight today wasn't that crowded, the mere thought is worrisome.
I don't see why you should be selling middle seats.
In fact, American Airlines, United, Allegiant, Sun Country, and Spirit are all allowing middle seats to be sold and occupied on their aircrafts. Tonight, some are asking, should lawmakers step in and stop middle seats from being sold? After all, airlines have received billions of dollars in bailouts from taxpayers in recent months.
It has to make a difference when somebody is that close to you.
Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon is on board. He's sponsoring legislation to ban the sale of middle seats until this pandemic is over, after recently taking this full flight. The senator taking to heart what Dr. Anthony Fauci told a Senate panel recently about airlines selling those seats.
I mean, obviously that is something that is of concern.
Fauci's concern may be backed by a recent study. MIT found the odds of getting COVID-19 on a full flight is around 1 in 4,300. However, when middle seats are empty, the odds improve to 1 in 7,700. Delta and Southwest, they're blocking the sale of middle seats on their aircrafts, but that's only guaranteed through the end of September. And the CEO of Delta recently said he would be against any bans from Congress.
I'm not an advocate for adding regulation at this point.
So for now, remember to check airline policy before you fly, and maybe you'll get lucky and find an empty airport like Cheryl Ann.
It's like deserted.
At Reagan National, I'm Joe St. George.
The CDC says the pandemic could be under control within 2 months if every person in the U.S. wore a mask. The CDC says state leaders should consider requiring masks, citing 2 hairstylists in Missouri who had COVID-19 but did not pass it on to clients. Another study published in the American Medical Association found that face coverings reduce coronavirus transmission at a hospital in Boston. The CDC is also finding that most people in the U.S. wore cloth masks when the recommendation was made in April.
The school year will be quite different for students and teachers this year. Up next, we'll show how a school district is bringing in a couple of visitors here to help everyone cope with all the changes being made.
Strong storms sit just to our west. Numerous thunderstorm warnings. Where these are headed, the timing, and what comes after.
No doubt these are anxious times. The Franklin school system in Johnson County will be deploying 2 therapy dogs when students return August 5th. I want you to meet Millie, an Australian Labradoodle. The 9-month-old and her fellow canine hero will assist the district with mental health care services, specifically social and emotional needs in the classroom.
They tend to kind of relieve that anxiety, just put kids at ease, and just really help set the stage for where learning to occur.
The dogs are funded through a portion of the referendum passed by voters to improve teacher salaries and invest in mental health services. Millie sure is a cute one, right, Kevin?
I would relax, certainly, around Millie. Temperatures, they're zipping into the 90s. Once we get to Friday, we'll stay in the low to mid 90s right through Monday. 95 on Sunday with a heat index of 105. We'll be close to that on Saturday as well. That's down the road. In our immediate future, storms will push into western Indiana here within the next hour. You can see the dark clouds just to our west, but no thunderstorms in central Indiana right now. 82, that's the temperature in Logansport, Indianapolis 85, 3 degrees warmer in Bloomington and in Muncie. The main threat with the arrival of the storms will be damaging wind. Can't rule out some hail. Isolated tornadoes have been reported over in Illinois, but all indications are as these continue to move into the Hoosier State, they'll lose strength. It's not as favorable for severe weather in central Indiana. Dry now, not hard to find the storms. Look at all of that lightning associated with the storms that are moving anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour to the east-northeast. That's why it won't take long for these to cross Interstate 57 in Illinois and push our way. The warnings have been about 120 miles long all along the line of storms as it continues from southeast Missouri all the way into central Illinois, then an additional line back behind that stretches toward Chicago. But I think the severe threat will come with this initial blast of storms. Lightning makes every thunderstorm dangerous, but it doesn't make it severe. We don't issue warnings for lightning. It's 58-mile-per-hour winds and 1-inch diameter hail that we issue the warnings for. 86 the high tomorrow. Chance for thunderstorms greatest in the morning, but we'll hold on to a lingering threat during the day. I don't think the coverage or intensity will be there. Any stronger storms may be in the southeast portion of the state. We get a break from the 90s again tomorrow. Temperatures mid-80s with lots of cloud cover around. Different story on Friday. Low rain chance, higher temperature, up to about 90 degrees. Over the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, low rain chances, but temperatures all the way to 95 degrees. Saturday, heat index of around 102, and then I think the heat index warmer than that on Sunday. Monday, 92, 40% chance of thunderstorms. We dialed the temperature back a little bit for highs Tuesday and Wednesday, but look at the overnight lows. From now through the middle of next week, low temperatures at 70 degrees or above, and 4 out of the next 7 days, 90 or above. We'll be back with more news at 7 right after this.
Friday Night Lights will shine brightly this week on the RTV6 Facebook page. Graduating seniors will be honored at the National Football Foundation Central Indiana Chapter Annual Scholastic Awards. Sports Director Dave First hosts as 15 student athletes from 14 area schools are selected. Watch Friday night at 7:30 only on the RTV6 Facebook page. Hyundai is recalling more than 270,000 cars in the U.S. There is a socket that can case a fire in the dashboard. This impacts certain Elantra, Sonata, Accent, and Veloster models between 2011 and 2012. There have been fires reported, but no one has been hurt. Hyundai is still working on a repair.
Some iPhone users could be owed $25. Apple settled a class action suit for slowing down older devices. That included the iPhone 6 and 7. You can submit a claim at smartphoneperformancesettlement.com. You do need to give your serial number for that phone before October, and the device had to have been bought before 2018, and it must have had performance issues. Researchers in Washington State are pushing the limit on how small video technology can get. They designed this camera that can fit on the back of a beetle. It can be remotely controlled from up to 400 feet to pivot in either direction, and the camera allows users to have a bug's eye view of the world on their smartphones. Researchers at the University of Washington in Seattle say the technology can also be used for small robots. They hope the technology will be used to explore the places that only insects can usually reach.
You'd have to think that's a heavy load for the Beetle, right? That little camera, it can't weigh too much. Thunderstorms less than an hour from the state line. Some of these severe, damaging wind threat. Lots of lightning and torrential rainfall as well.
Thanks for making RTV6 your choice for news. We'll see you tonight at 11.